Hey guys, welcome back to another FPL Tips and Tricks Fantasy Friday video. I'm a little bit hazy this morning. It's really early for me, 7:30, but I had to make sure that we got an FPL video up for this upcoming game week, especially because there's really a lot to talk about after having that weird blank game week 29. So to help me talk about this, as always, is Olivia Buzaglo. Liv, how are you doing today?
Yeah. Thanks. It's not as early as it is where you are, so I'm slightly more awake. But I'm buzzing that I finally have something to talk about and tweet about again, because I've been mute for the past 2 weeks with not a lot to talk about other than, England and Chelsea women. So, it's nice to have the Premier League back.
Yeah, definitely. And I was saying, I've really been off the grid the past 2 weeks as well. I'm back in New York for a couple of weeks visiting my family, and so I'm in my sister's room right now. Hopefully nobody bothers me here. But it's just really nice to get to talk about FPL again. So FPL Game Week 30, there's a couple of really interesting fixtures. There's two pretty big games, I would say. Leicester versus Man City, Arsenal versus Liverpool. Do you have any of those any players from those teams in your team?
Yes, I do. I had to make a decision this week, and I took out John Stones because City blank coming up, and I wanted to get a Chelsea defender in, but I didn't want it to be one of those fringe players that I have that are going to be on my bench. So I took out John Stones, and so I've only got Ruben Dias now in that game. I don't have any Leicester players. I have kept Mo Salah.
No.
Yeah, so I was always going to stick with him for the last game week just gone, even though it was blank, because I think I took someone else out to get Kane in. I think I took out Son to get Kane because it didn't make sense to me to not do that. And Son's now going to be back, and Son has a double coming up. So I'm keeping Salah for this game week only. Liverpool, Arsenal, it's seen the most goals in Premier League history. Salah does love a game and a goal against Arsenal. So I've got Salah, but obviously if he blanks this weekend, then that's an easy option for me to just take him out and put Son back in for the double. But yeah, and obviously I don't think anyone will be surprised. I've got no Arsenal players. Have you got any Arsenal players? Because I doubt you do either.
No, I don't. I actually currently I have 4 defenders right now. I have Cancelo, Diaz, Azpilicueta, and Cresswell. But how I have my team currently set up, I benched Cancelo. So we're kind of thinking this. I don't know who I would necessarily bring in, or maybe I bring in some other player. But my problem is I just don't feel like there's that many players that I really want to bring in, so I'm kind of stuck right now. Guys, I've seen that we're getting a couple of questions, so of course feel free to ask as many questions as possible, and we'll try to get to all of them. And so this kind of goes into what we were saying. Andrew asked, time to bring Jamie Vardy back. Madison's return should bode well, and he had a nice rest during the international break. That's something that I wanted to ask you, actually, because Madison is back. We've seen that Iheanacho has been playing, but do you think that he's going to continue playing? Do you think that Vardy's going to be starting? Do you pick any of those Leicester players in your team, knowing that Leicester may have a slump, but it really hasn't reached them yet? I think that they've been playing pretty well, given that Madison was out, Harvey Barnes was out as well.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be looking to get Madison in straight away. He's not going to be dropped he's not going to be put in for Iheanacho. You can't. Iheanacho's in brilliant goal scoring form. He's got 9 goals in his last 9 appearances in all competitions. And actually, if anyone, he's been the one goal scoring. And obviously, like Andrew said, Jamie Vardy, Madison's return will have a positive impact on Jamie Vardy, because they don't really have any of those players that will look to play those through balls or look to play those balls over the top, other than Tielemans maybe. But Iheanacho's really benefited from Madison being out, but I can see all 3 of them playing. I don't think losing to City isn't any mean feat. Every team has done it this season and will continue to do it for the rest of the season. Obviously they beat them 5-2 last time out, with Jamie Vardy I think scoring, but I would wait before bringing Jamie Vardy back in. I don't think you should bring in Vardy for City. It doesn't really make any sense. See how he gets on. You can't really judge them because City's defence is so good, and you're not going to be playing City every week. But it is worth potentially, if Maddison and Vardy have that link up, then you can obviously next week maybe go to put one of the two in. But I don't think Jamie Vardy is a necessity in FPL this season. There are cheaper strikers and there are cheaper midfielders like James Maddison who will be amongst the points as well. But if I was you for this game week, I would stay away from Leicester players just to see how they fare, and then maybe go and get them next week if you want.
Yeah, and kind of on like the opposite side of that, that's one of the reasons why I'm benching Cancelo. One, because I don't know if he's playing. I feel like Diaz is a little bit more set. Watch like Diaz get benched, right? But also because I feel like Leicester could have a goal in them. So in terms of like doubling up on those City defensive assets that we're seeing, like that I've been doing for the past, I don't know, like many game weeks. Perhaps for this game, I wasn't exactly sure if it was necessarily worth the risk, because I do feel like Leicester could have a goal in them with the return of Madison. And
it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not doubling up. Not a chance. I think my doubling up days are over, just because I think City now in the latter stages of the Champions League, they've got Porto on Dortmund on Tuesday. We've got Dortmund on Tuesday, coming up against one of the best strikers in the league. They're gonna in the world, in Erling Haaland. They're gonna want all of their best defenders for that game. So it wouldn't even surprise me if someone like Diaz was benched this week. I've got Diaz in my team and I'm starting him, but I've got Soufal on my bench, so I'm not too fussed if that doesn't happen. But what I didn't want is two City players playing and then them resting. There's every chance he's resting Cancelo. There's every chance he's resting Diaz. There's every chance he's resting Stones. There's every chance he's resting Gundogan. Do you know what I mean? I think the league is almost tied up. There's only 8 games to go. They're 14 points clear. So I wouldn't be surprised to see big names dropped for this game against Leicester, because we all know that the Champions League is what City want the most.
So another question for you: what are you doing with Gundogan? Because I currently have him. I could perfectly bench him and bring in Bale, but I'm also not like 100% convinced on that after Bale's.
I haven't got Bale. I mean, if I bench, this is my issue. My issue with game week 30 was I have a good squad and there's players with good fixtures that I want to play, and I've got too many players with good fixtures that I want to play. And with the news that Jack Grealish was potentially back, that made me want to start Ollie Watkins, because Ollie Watkins hasn't had a single big chance since Jack Grealish has been injured. And they obviously work very well together and combine very well together. So I don't want to bench him with Fulham at home. I don't want to bench Lingard with Wolves away. He's been in great form. He's got me loads of points recently. I'm thinking of captaining Bamford, but do I triple up on those Leeds players? And if I do, that means I bench Gundogan for Rafinha. What you don't want to do is play Gundogan and then he comes on for a couple of minutes, which is likely. Like with the City defenders, you know that if they're on your bench, they're on the bench. There's no way they're coming on for 10 minutes. Whereas Gundogan's a player that, you know, if they need something with 20 minutes to go, you could just stick him on. And that's the thing you don't want. At the moment, I'm looking at my team. He's in my starting 11, but Rafinha's on my bench with Sheffield United at home, and every time I've tripled up on Leeds players in a good fixture, they've blanked. So that's what's putting me off playing Rafinha as well as Bamford and Dallas. But it'll be a last-minute decision whether I decide to bench Gundogan or play him. At the moment, I'm swaying towards playing him, but that could change.
Yeah, my problem is that right now I'm playing 3-4-3. I have Bamford, Watkins, Kane, and then Gundogan, Fernandes, Rafinha, and Jota. And
great, yeah.
And I could bring in Bale or Cancelo for Gundogan, and I'm not really convinced by either option.
Well, this is the thing. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Because Gundogan, like, we never know, he might play. Obviously, he's played for Germany, but he might. The last time he was a sub, he didn't come on. And so if you want to play him, if you want to risk it, you can always have your first sub come on. But obviously then if he does start and he's on your bench, that's what you don't want. So if you want to start him, just start him and then have one of your subs come on if he doesn't. But I don't know who I would choose. I would probably go Bale. Newcastle away. We know what Newcastle are like. I think they've got 2 wins since December. Like they're in a bad place, and we've seen what the likes of Bale are like when you play against Crystal Palace and Burnley and those sorts of teams. It's the bigger teams that Bale struggles against, but the smaller teams he's been very good against. So if that would make sense for me to play obviously I don't have Bale, but for you to play Bale instead of Gundogan, obviously I would expect Gareth Bale to start.
I know that's the thing. Like, I don't know if he's going to be starting. I feel like there was maybe one game that he didn't start, he blanked or something, and then after the comments that he said, like, "Oh, I'm just at Tottenham to be like for like to try to get playing time for the Euros." I was like, "Oh, yeah, like I don't think that's going to bode well with Mourinho." But honestly, I have no idea. But like looking at those midfield options, like I don't really want to keep Bale or Gundogan in my teams. So who do you look at to bring in? Because I really don't feel like there's that many options.
Well, this is the thing. Gundogan blanks in game week 33, so that could be a move I make. I never had Bale. I'm not going to have Bale. Gundogan, I've got a couple of million in my bank. Jack Grealish is obviously back. James Maddison's obviously back. They're two of the players that James Maddison I like. I like the look of James Maddison. He's been scoring goals this season. If he can get back to how he was playing before he got injured, then he could be a really good option going into the end of the season. Jack Grealish is Jack Grealish. You know, if I could take out Gundogan and put in Jack Grealish, then I would. I might do a double sub to get Son and Jota in. I think Jota's a perfect replacement for someone like Gundogan. Like cheap, I think he's only 6.7 is Jota and Gundogan 6.1. So there's not much of a difference. Jota will be playing up front. We've seen the effect he's had on that Liverpool side. Only been back for 2 days. He scored 3 and 2 for Portugal. He's been in great form, and I can't really see anything other than Jota starting against Arsenal. I would be so surprised if Roberto Firmino starts. I think Jota brings something different, and I think in game week 32, so that's game week 31. If Salah doesn't return this weekend, I'll be looking to do maybe a Salah and a Gundogan out for a Jota and a Son. That's what I'm feeling.
Interesting. So maybe I should, because I have Harry Kane, so maybe I should. I always had Son, and then I took him out because I took him out right before he got injured, and it happened to be like lucky. So perhaps I bring him. Perhaps he's one of the players that I bring back in.
They've got a double. It makes sense. They're not in the Europa League anymore. They all they can fight. I know the annoying thing is that the League Cup final I think is placed after their double game week. So I winning the League Cup is obviously something that they'll obviously want to do against City, but their priority is Champions League football. It always will be. To get in the Champions League, you attract the best players. You want to be playing in the best competition. So I don't think Harry Kane is not going to play in any of those league games in that double, and Son's going to play both of them as well. They might only play 60 minutes, but they're not going to play, like they're not going to not start. Jose can't afford to not start them. So I think I'm going to bring in Son and potentially triple captain Kane for that weekend. I've still got my triple captain. I don't know when to use it, so I'm just because I've used my bench boost, used my wild card, I used it all, and I basically just didn't have the balls to use my triple captain. But I'm thinking now, coming towards the end of the season, I was going to leave it for the last day because anything can happen. But I'm thinking I might as well just use it for a double coming up. Kane's going to play in both games, so I think that's what I'm swaying towards.
I'm so pissed. I used my triple captain on Gundogan. City double game week had really favorable fixtures and nothing.
It's the thing, it's such a luck thing, isn't it? I know so many people that have just randomly used it and they've blanked, or they've randomly used it and gone and scored a hat trick, and it's like it's just luck. And at the end of the day, I basically haven't. It's luck of the draw, and I think I'm just going to go for it with Kane. It'll be the last of the 2 fixtures, and they haven't really got anything else to play for. So yeah, I think it'll probably backfire and he'll probably blank, but at least I've got 2 fixtures for him to maybe get something.
No, he's been playing I think he's still top assister and goal scorer in the league this season. Like playing with Tottenham, like that's absolutely ridiculous.
I know.
So we have another question. He says, I have Pope, Cresswell, Antonio, and Cancelo on my bench. Should I use my bench boost? Who are you playing in your team?
This is the thing. I think there is so much money that you've got there that Cresswell needs to be playing. Cresswell, you cannot bench Cresswell. He's the highest scoring defender. He's been brilliant. He gets assists, keeps clean sheets. You cannot bench Cresswell. And Wolves and West Ham have got Wolves away. That's not actually as difficult as it sort of suggests. It has been in previous seasons, but not this season. West Ham are a much better side than Wolves have been this season. Let me just have a look at the fixtures. And Burnley have Southampton away. You know, that could easily be a 0-0. If Burnley play out for a draw, they could easily get a clean sheet. I mean, what I would do is definitely bench boost, but also, if you've still got your wild card, try and get some money. Like, you don't need a £5.5 million keeper on your bench. That is ridiculous. If you've got someone like that, you've got to be playing him every week. Because if you think how good your team could be if you had all the money that is invested in those players in your starting 11. So I would 100% bench boost if I was you.
Yeah.
But I would get Cresswell in. I think you should have Cresswell. There isn't a situation in FPL where Cresswell shouldn't be starting. You can't tell me you've got three better defenders with Cresswell's returns have been ridiculous. It doesn't really matter who he's playing because he's got attacking potential as well as defensive.
Andrew says Olivia probably made the best decision to preserve the triple captain so late. I wish I had her level of patience.
Andrew, it's got nothing to do with patience. It's actually just me not having the balls to do it. It's nothing me being like, I'm going to wait it out. I know when I'm going to use it. I've got a really good time. It's literally not. It's just, I was like, oh, I don't want to use it. And other times for double game weeks, I've used other chips. So I've used my bench boost or I've used my wild card and I just somehow have my triple captain. So yeah, it's not patience at all, and it could backfire massively, but I've got to use it. And if I don't use it for that double game week, when am I going to use it? So
I've learned my lesson this season to save my chips because I used them when I still had no idea what the benefit of them was, and I didn't know about double game weeks and all this. So
yeah,
this has been a learning year, but
you're learning. It's fine. We go again next season.
Yeah. Still like 900,000, and I've had some pretty bad game weeks, so not terrible. Alex asks, what should I do with Bale and Son?
I would keep them. I would be more inclined. I think Son. Listen, I personally think that Son didn't play in that Aston Villa game because South Korea was saying if he can play in that Villa game, then he's fit to come on international duty. I think he was fit to play for Villa. For that Villa game, but Mourinho said no, he's injured, so he's not going on international duties. I think Bale and Son will be back 100%. Kane's obviously going to be back, and Bale. Thing is, I would if you've got Kane as well, I would look to bench Bale this game week, but I would absolutely keep them because they have a double game week in like 32. Is it? Or was it 31?
Let me check.
No, I think it's 32. Yeah, it's 32. They have a double game week. So there's no point getting rid of your Spurs assets until after game week 32 because they've got a double game week when no one else does. So I would definitely keep them.
Yeah, I'm just like nervous about Mourinho. I just think Bale.
Bale's just I never.
And then he's just been blanking since I brought him in.
I never jumped on that Bale hype. I was never gonna. I knew that when they play the big games, but this is the thing, they've got Newcastle away. That's a game where you would expect Bale to play and expect him to do well. They're the sorts of games that he has been returning in this season. But I just think there are too many other good options in midfield to be having Gareth Bale. And he's like nearly 10 million. You don't need to be spending 10 million on someone like Gareth Bale. He's not going to start every game. He's not going to return every game. If you don't need Son, Bale and Kane.
Exactly.
They're not consistent enough. Spurs aren't consistent enough to have all three of them. They're consistent enough to have two of them. And the two that I would have and the two that I'll hopefully have the game week 32 are Son and Kane.
Yeah, I think I'll probably transfer Bale for Son. I brought him in because I transferred out Salah. I have so much money in the bank. I have like over 4 million still.
Yeah, but keep it because there'll be times, say Salah does well against Arsenal and then does well in the next game. Like this is Mohamed Salah's top scorer in the or close to being top scorer in the Premier League. I know he's had an off season by his standards, but there is every chance that he could score a couple against Arsenal. He loves playing against Arsenal. These games are always so high scoring. They're so open. And, there might come a point in game week 35 where Liverpool are out of the Champions League and they then are playing for the Premier League to get in the top four. And you might want to put Salah back in. So I wouldn't try and just spend that money for the sake of it. I would just keep it in your bank, make the moves you want to make, and then, keep it because you might want to transfer Salah back in at some point.
Yeah, it's a really good piece of advice. Vinay says, Olivia seems so nice and genuine. She's so nice. Andrew asks, is it worth keeping Mason Mount? He's a bit frustrating from an FPL point of view, and Tuchel keeps rotating the pack. And this is also interesting because it can lead us to talk about if you have any Chelsea assets, or if you would own any Chelsea assets as well, because typically I had stayed away from them. But I do think that a Chelsea defender could be a very good option.
Well, saying that, Ellie, because I have bought in Azpilicueta this week. Like I said, I bought in him for John Stones. Didn't go on international duty. Been playing well. I think he's played every minute under Tuchel. I firmly see him starting 100%, and I just think Chelsea's run of fixtures. I didn't really want to do a transfer this week, but I looked at the West Brom at home, and there's not a better fixture than that, apart from Sheffield United at home, you could argue. And I fully expect Chelsea to keep a clean sheet. So I went with that move. Got Azpilicueta in. I really want to go with a Chelsea attacker, but like Andrew says, the problem is we don't know which Chelsea attackers are going to start. You know, Mason Mount would be nailed on, you'd think, but he's played very well in the England's qualifiers, and you just don't know. We've got so many attackers, so many different players that could play, that it's a real risk picking one of those attackers that you think is going to start. Havertz isn't nailed on to start. Werner's not nailed on to start. Neither's Ziyech. Neither's Pulisic. Out of them all, Andrew, I would say Mason Mount is the one that's probably nailed on to start. But you know, with Porto on Tuesday, I'm speaking to Thomas Tuchel literally after this, and I think that's one of the questions I'm going to ask him is, does he have one eye on that Porto fixture, and will that affect his thinking for this game? Because you'd think that, is there any point in playing Mason Mount? You know, we've got other players that can do that job. Would you rather save Mason Mount and play him on Porto, make sure he's fully fit up for that Porto game, give him a little bit of a rest, because he hasn't had a rest playing for England? So, I think it's a really difficult one, and I would stay away from Chelsea attackers for the time being anyway. And I think from now until the end of the season, it's going to be too difficult to predict what Tuchel's going to do, especially in the last stage of the Champions League and the FA Cup. So if I was, I think there's better options in FPL. As much as we'd all love to have Chelsea players in our team, and next season hopefully we will, I think it just is best to stay away. Defenders though, go for it. But good luck picking who's going to start a left and right wing back, because I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, that's why I stay away from like Reece, Chilwell, Alonso. I just don't know who's going to start. So
although I think Alonso will start against West Brom. He's tall, he's physical. Ben Chilwell's been with England. Alonso's had a rest. Part of me wanted to put Alonso in just for like FPL throwback, because he was so good in that season. But I need to put Azpilicueta in, I think, because just of the consistency and knowing he's confident.
I was between Azpilicueta and Rudiger, because I feel like those are the two that are really nailed on starters, because Thiago Silva's back in training. Perhaps he's going to come in for Christensen. We don't know how many games he's going to play. Like you said, if he's going to come right into the Champions League, if he's going to play and get we just don't know. But I think like the one person that's really been out and out starter is Azpilicueta, and I was comparing him and Rudiger. Rudiger is a lot cheaper. Well, he's not. He's like 1 million-ish cheaper if you can't afford an Azpilicueta. But also, if you have 2 City assets, you can replace one with Azpilicueta. And Azpilicueta tends to get a lot of bonus points. And that's
the thing. Yeah, he got 2 against Everton, didn't we? We won 2-0, and he got all 3 bonus. So I think he's definitely got the potential for attacking returns more than Rudiger. I know he's big and he's physical in the air, but I just think out of the two, everyone will have money in the bank, because a lot of people have got rid of Salah, and so if you can afford a 5.8 million midfielder in Azpilicueta with Chelsea's defensive record and potentially he's got going forward, I think and the fixtures, I really think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. All right. So one more question. I know you have to go speak to Tuchel, so I'm honored that I get to speak to the person that speaks to Tuchel. So we've gotten so many questions about who's a captain, and specifically Werner. A lot of people still have Werner in their teams, and they want to know if he's a good captain choice.
No, I don't think he is a good captain choice. We're getting into the most important part of the season in FPL, and I suppose if you want to be taking risks, captaining Timo Werner would be a huge one. But after seeing his miss against was it Macedonia.
Yeah, I think it was Macedonia. That was
Macedonia. But regardless, I mean, for Chelsea, I think Chelsea play better when Werner's on the pitch. So it's got nothing. That's got nothing to do with his miss against Macedonia. I think Chelsea play better with Werner on the pitch. And for Chelsea, he's been getting points, whether it be assisting or scoring. He's been getting the points. But I think there is much better people. Like, fair play for you for backing him, because I took him out of my team a long time ago. Hopefully, I'm going to get him in for next season because I've got faith. But this week, it was between Kane, Bruno, and Bamford. Now I'm swaying more towards Bamford and Bruno. At the moment, I'm Bamford captain, Bruno vice, but that might change to I think I'm going to stay away from Kane, which seems mad because Newcastle away could be such a good fixture for Spurs. But yeah, for some reason I'm swaying towards Patrick Bamford, and it's either going to be between him and Bruno, and it's going to be a 10:58 decision tomorrow, or I'll probably forget and just leave it at Bamford. But at least I got it on Bamford this time, so that, you know, if I don't make a decision, it's Patrick Bamford's my captain, and I'll be happy with that. But yeah, Bamford or Bruno, I can't decide. Who's yours? Have you decided?
Yeah, I'm between those three. And just to remind everybody, so Leeds play Sheffield, Newcastle play Spurs, and Man United play Brighton. So all pretty favorable fixtures. So it's a difficult one. Right now I have it on Kane, but I might change it. I'm between more Kane and Bamford. I don't think that Bruno has been.
He hasn't been. Yeah.
Delivering as much as he had in past game weeks, and I don't think he's been like as effective. But you know, like Man United could always get a penalty, and he's their penalty taker, and
that's the thing.
You never know. But I feel like Leeds versus Sheffield have not been playing well. Patrick Bamford has a goal in him. He's been really active, and I also have Rafinha, so maybe like even
Rafinha's on my bench.
You know, I'm thinking like even if Bamford assists, you know, maybe, I don't know. But I think it's so funny how we do this every Friday, and you always text me like, I forgot to change my captain.
Yeah, I mean, I've set my team up in a way that I'm happy with. So if I forget, then it's fine. I'm happy because Bamford's my captain, Bruno's my vice. The only one I'm thinking over is now Watkins or Rafinha. Watkins at home to Fulham, Rafinha at home to Sheffield United. Already got 2 Leeds players. I haven't got any Villa. I feel like I think I'm going to stick with that, but that might be a last minute decision as well.
Yeah.
Forgetting deadlines. No more forgetting deadlines. From now to the end of the season, I'm not going to forget a deadline.
I'll text you before and make sure
you've done your team.
Actually, it might be a little early for me, but once I'm back in Spain, I'll have to make sure to get it done then. Well, thank you so much again for yet another episode of Fantasy Friday FPL. I put Olivia's description in. I put her Twitter handle in the description box. Still a little hazy, you guys. And Liv, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys. So until my match preview, which will be out after the press conference, definitely give it a listen. Olivia will be asking a question. It's always super, super cool. She always asks like the best questions as well. But until next time, I'm out.